part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And welcome to another Reghi Roda podcast powered by MGM Northfield Park right here on the Press Play Podcast Network. And we got to give some love to our outstanding, fantabulous producer. That's Ty Courts, who makes all of this sound fantabulous and outstanding. So you in the podcastosphere can listen to all of this on a regular basis. And Michael Reghi, time to recap, do the autopsy on the Browns' loss at home today to the Baltimore Ravens. The final score was 28-3, Michael, and it wasn't that close. This was a butt whooping today by the Ravens, as we all found out right before the game. No Deshaun Watson, so no chance for the Browns.
Yeah, it really was, Kenny. And as we get into this, I think it's just a fine place to give our statement of declaration right at the top. Andrew Berry, this one's got a lot of handprints and fingerprints on you. And we'll start right there, Kenny, as we get rolling.
Michael, Deshaun Watson, $230 million guy, played only 6 last year, coming off his best game, but has a shoulder injury throughout the week. Oh, he'll be fine. We expect him to play, and then boom, the bombshell drops right before kickoff that he cannot go. Now, they kind of knew this, supposedly, and were giving DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the snaps in practice today, but how unfair was it of the Browns organization to start a 5th-round pick? And Michael, he's a 5th-round pick for a reason, and he played 5 years in college for a reason, right? To give him the starting duty today at home against the Ravens, unfair to that young kid, and he throws 3 picks and only 121 yards and is sacked 4 times. I blame this one, as you were saying, on the front office more so than anybody else.
No question about it. And I think we're finding out that them thinking that Joshua Dobbs can just be allowed to get out of here without a substantial quarterback to fulfill that position. And again, this is not on Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Right. You just said it perfectly, Kenny. You can't expect. I never expected the kid. When I found out he was going to play today, I said, no, this ain't going to go. And of all teams to be playing, too, as we know. One of the top defensive units in football year after year after year. They're good for a reason, the Baltimore Ravens defensively. They have for years taken apart young quarterbacks. Hell, they take apart veteran quarterbacks and make them look very, non-effective. So I know it didn't surprise me in the least, but, for Andrew Berry to think that this was going to be okay with the Josh Dobbs situation, and then you're just going to roll with this young man, as you just said, as your backup quarterback, if something were to happen to Deshaun Watson, he's in the football game. No, that's not strong presence in terms of running your football team, in my opinion.
166 total yards. They go 4 of 16 on 3rd down. They turn it over 3 times. He was sacked 4 times. Totally an inept offense today by the Browns. And the defense, Michael, which we've been praising right through the first 3 games, and deservedly so, even in the loss to Pittsburgh. They didn't show up today as well, as they were gashed on the ground and through the air by Lamar Jackson and others.
No, that's right. And I think the Browns allowed, I believe, just 94 yards a game on the ground by the opposition coming in. That Ravens second touchdown drive, second TD, Kenny, was on a 93-yard drive.
Right.
So, they had no ability to get off the field. Runs from Baltimore were gash runs. They were 6, 8, 9, 11, 14, 16-yard runs. And the Browns looked anything but like one of the top defenses in the National Football League today. So, there's a lot of blame to go around. But again, to me, you just kind of knew that, okay, by making this decision that Josh Dobbs can just walk, and you're not going to get a veteran quarterback to come in here to back up Deshaun Watson, was troubling to me when, as we discussed, when they allowed it to happen. And now here you go. Here you go. And it's a football game you wind up really, when you look at it, had no chance in the way that, the ineffectiveness that Baltimore's defense was able to put on DTR.
Reg, I was driving out to Jersey's in Canton for the Stark County Browns backers get together. We get there every Sunday, Monday, whenever the Browns are playing to watch the game. I'm listening to the Browns radio network, and I'm literally laughing out loud. No names here, but someone on the pregame show saying, this is why they drafted Dorian Thompson-Robinson. The moment won't be too big for him. Remember what he did in the preseason. And that's when I really laughed out loud. The preseason, Kenny Pickett was a stud in the preseason. He stinks so far this year. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, no offense, unfair to put him in that position. But if they thought they were going to get preseason Dorian Thompson-Robinson in the regular season against the Ravens, then that entire front office should have been fired. And anybody who thought that doesn't know much about football, because most of those guys he played against aren't even in the NFL anymore. And that just, I chuckled at that, because the preseason doesn't mean a doodly squat. And it proved that fact today in the game.
Well, there's no question about that, and as we said, you almost felt like, sure hope Deshaun Watson is able to, buckle up and go for 17 football games and then hopefully more, because if he's not, after that decision was made to have this young fifth-round rookie as your backup quarterback in this division, having to play, potentially the Baltimore's and the Pittsburgh's defenses of the world, I don't know. And it came home to really hurt the Browns today. Going to be interesting to see. But it sounds like, now bye week, right? And Deshaun Watson should be back and be ready to go. I hope so, because the next time the Browns go out there, it's against the San Francisco 49ers. They need Watson to be effective to give them a chance to win a football game.
Michael, we expected him to go today the way they were talking. So I'm not going to believe a damn thing they say until I see him under center on, what's the date on that? That'll be Sunday, October 15th at home against the 49ers. I can't count on him or trust anything they say, whether they're doing it to try and force Baltimore to be unprepared. That didn't work, or whatever the reason was. Sorry, I won't believe that he's ready to go until he's in uniform. He goes through warmups and then takes the snap against the 49ers. And if he's not ready, even if you have 2 weeks to prepare for San Francisco, the result's not going to be any better than what you saw against the Ravens, because the 49ers defense is better than Baltimore's.
Well, and again, I'm not trying to grill the young fifth-round draft pick, but this isn't a situation that you want him to be, starting to get his teeth put into his NFL career, because it's not going to go well. It just isn't. He's not ready to play these type of football games. And again, I don't mean that. We're not knocking this kid down, but that's, he drafted in the 5th round for a reason. He was supposed to be the number 3 quarterback. He's basically a developmental guy, right, Ken?
Yep.
I mean, that's what he is. It's almost like you basically to be a developmental guy and let him in your system practice and, then go through an off season and maybe at some point then you feel good about him being the backup. But it's not right now. I'll tell you that. It is not right now. And we saw the reasoning for that today. I mean, was he not a 500 quarterback at UCLA that in essence, Kenny, if you're asking me about his career at UCLA in the times I saw him play, it basically the young man was a glorified running back because his legs were his biggest virtue.
Right.
Not his ability to throw the football. So, all right, the Browns took that kind of quarterback. Does he develop? Well, I hope he does develop for him and for the Browns organization, but he is not ready to play an NFL football game right now against this kind of competition. He isn't. And again, if you think that the Browns are going to find a way to make this happen for him, for themselves, if they need to do it, well, good luck to you, because it won't happen. It just won't. He's not ready for this right now. He's going to need time. And the Browns don't have any kind of time to have to run him out on the football field to start games in this league right now, Ken.
Reg, I looked it up, and you're right. 24-24 was his record at UCLA. 48 starts, 50 games played. Yeah, he's their all-time leader in passing yards. That's because he played 5 years, right? And there's a reason he played 5 years. If you're good, if you're NFL ready, you play 3 years, right?
Correct.
You come out after your junior year. There's a reason you stick around for 2 more years after that. That's because you weren't good enough to be drafted. You got that report and you went back to school. And, for them, hey, fine that they drafted him. I'm okay with that. Fine if he makes the 53-man roster, but not to have him as your backup quarterback when you have Super Bowl aspirations this year based on the team you have on paper. That is just horrible decision-making by Paul DePodesta, Andrew Berry, and every damn one of them in the front office.
Yeah, that is good. It big time cost them a football game, cost them any chance to win a football game today.
Yep.
So they, of course, now are, I wonder if this is going to have them maybe take a look at this, and all indications are that Deshaun Watson will be back, be ready to go. He got the extra week, and this isn't going to be a reoccurring thing. But, Kenny, I sure as hell hope it's not going to be a reoccurring thing,
right?
Because you're going to have to get another quarterback in here if you feel like this could be just that and be something that maybe plagues Watson and gives him some problems, physically. Then you got to get another quarterback in here if you're serious about wanting to win, because, this young man is just not ready for this.
They can spin it however they want. It wasn't all his fault. We win as a team. We lose as a team. You could see the lights were way too bright for him today. And you saw the results, 28-3, no touchdowns. Okay. And that's the offense. And of course, no Nick Chubb hurt him as well. There was nobody to rely on, turn and give the ball to when you've got Pierre Strong Jr., Jerome Ford, Kareem Hunt, and Elijah Moore, who ran backwards more than he ran forwards today. 1 carry minus 20 yards, right? So that hurt him as well. And I sent this out in a tweet, Michael. I didn't expect them to win without their 2 best players in Deshaun Watson and Nick Chubb. Okay. I didn't expect that. But what we saw today, that's unfair to the rest of the team to throw him out there and expect him to play well. So I didn't like some of the play calls again from Stefanski early on, but I'm going to put this one on the front office and blame Andrew Berry for this loss.
And to be clear, there's a difference in how we're saying this now, right? There's a difference being that you got put into this situation. But there's a difference when you say no chance, just no possibility to be able to win a football game when a situation like this develops. And so there you go. I didn't see too many Browns fans. I don't know if you did, Ken, or too many when the Josh Dobbs situation. But do I know that Josh Dobbs wins this football game today? Of course not. I don't know that. But I do believe that Josh Dobbs would have given this offense the capabilities, Ken, of being more productive against a very strong Baltimore Ravens defense, because he has played in the league. He has won some games in the league. He's been through this before. And today, at times, again, almost felt like, my God, Ravens, you come in here and you know what? You're in essence playing a college quarterback today.
Right. Yeah. Michael,
a college quarterback that probably is more comfortable with his legs than he is with his arm.
Yeah. I'm looking at the defensive numbers. Myles Garrett today, 2 tackles. He did have a sack. Obo Okoronkwo had a sack and a couple of half sacks for Elliott and Tomlinson. But The running game, Michael. If I'm an opposing team that hasn't played the Browns yet and I'm looking at the game film today, I can still run on these guys. That's the weakness, and then we can soften them up with the run and then work in the pass. That's what I saw today, and that had nothing to do with Nick Chubb or Deshaun Watson not playing or Dorian Thompson-Robinson playing. That was on the defensive side of things. How concerned are you about that?
Well, it's concerning because I think there's some things that they got to be able to take care of. You cannot, be allowing these long touchdown drives that most of it coming on the ground. And so, as we praise them for what they've accomplished the first couple of weeks in winning two of the first three football games, today, Kenny, it was a lot of times it just left you looking and saying, my goodness, I'm a big Jim Schwartz guy.
Yeah.
And I know you are too. But today, it wasn't anywhere near good enough on that side of the football because exactly. You play them twice a year. You know what the hell that Lamar Jackson and this offense is. And so, I mean, they didn't do anything that's abnormal or out of character for them. They just basically said, this is us, and we don't think you can deal with us. And today, the Browns didn't deal with them. They didn't. And, I mean, I'm going to tell you what, do they understand? Do they feel like they don't have to cover Mark Andrews? Do they feel like that he's just some guy, Ken, that they don't need to give him a little bit of, extra thought and consideration to? Because is it just me, or does every time these two, Mark Andrews kicks the Browns' ass in connection with Lamar Jackson? He has huge games against the Browns all the time.
I'm kicking myself for not doing a player prop bet on him scoring at least one touchdown. He had two today. And Michael, the one time they did cover him, they had three guys on him, and he still climbed the ladder and caught the ball for a touchdown in the back corner of the end zone.
Right. Went right above Denzel Ward, and I'm forgetting who else it was. But, and just snatched the football on a throw that, and there again, it's almost like Lamar Jackson saying, well, I'm just going to get it up in the air because I'm not worried about any of those DBs because I know my guy Andrews is going to go up and pluck it down for me. Yep, and that's exactly what happened.
And, Michael, they were missing what? 4, 5 starters. OBJ didn't play. Bateman didn't play. The starting Stanley didn't play. A couple of guys. I mean, 2 secondary guys didn't play. And
I think
obviously,
it was 7 total, Ken.
Was it really?
7 starters on both sides of the ball. So before you go saying, Browns fans, about all the, not having Watson and not having Chubb, and 7 starters did not go today for the Baltimore Ravens. 7. And they still came in and put some doo-doo on the Browns' name and just rolled them in the Browns' house.
Roquan Smith talking some smack during the week, but he backed it up today, man. 10 tackles, 6 solo, 1 tackle for a loss. Like we said, Patrick Queen had one of their 4 sacks. Those guys make plays on the defensive side of the ball, and Lamar did enough. I still am not a believer in Lamar when it comes to playoff time and you're playing elite teams. I still think he's a turnover waiting to happen, okay? But and it's funny, Michael, Browns own the Bengals, Steelers own the Browns, Ravens own the Browns, right? So you've got to figure out a way to beat those teams who own you, Pittsburgh and Baltimore for the most part. And that's why maybe Harbaugh and company, hey, 7 guys out, no problem. We'll take care of these guys like we normally do.
Well, exactly, and that's why I just brought it up because because I think it's important that, well, of course it hurts the Browns not to have Deshaun Watson and not going to have Nick Chubb for the duration of the football season. Yeah, that hurts, but 7 starters didn't play today for the Baltimore Ravens. Of the 22, 11 on each side of the ball, they were missing 7, and they still came in, as you just said, Ken, with the mindset of, they don't know how to beat us. We beat them usually twice a year.
Right.
And we're just going to continue to do that because we know how to beat the Cleveland Browns. And I don't know how, even if you're the staunchest, I don't like it either. But if you're the staunchest Browns fan, I don't know how you could quip or quibble about that. Baltimore just believes they're going to. The Browns don't. I don't even think they really feel, Kenny, if they're telling the truth, that they look at the Browns as a real big threat to them. I really don't.
Well, when you are 36-13 all time against them, a winning percentage of 735, you can think that way and go in with that kind of confidence, Michael.
Yeah, well, and they do. They do. They show it. And, I don't know what they're saying at home during the week in Charm City, as Baltimore is called, but it doesn't really matter if they are talking, they aren't talking. They go out. Would you say that is 36-13?
Yes.
Well, listen, we don't need to say any more now. I don't care who you're a fan of. If you got to take that in the face and say, damn, my football team's only won 13 times in 49 games against this group, that can't make you feel real good. Because it just repeats itself year after year.
Yeah, the names change, the results are the same. And unfortunately for the Browns today, it was 28-3. Baltimore kicks the crap out of Cleveland on the shores of Lake Erie, and it wasn't that close. Michael, let's get a break in right now. When we come back, let's take a look at the rest of the AFC North, because they didn't do any better than them. In fact, they may have been worse than the Browns, talking about the Steelers and the Bengals, and we'll take a look at the overall standings throughout the National Football League right now through 4 weeks, and dive into a few other things here when the R&R podcast continues on the Press Play Podcast Network, brought to you by MGM Northfield Park, right after this.
What's up, everyone? I'm Holly Wetzel.
And I'm Tybus Powell.
And we are your hosts of The Orange is Oranger, a Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network. We give you all the dog pound coverage that you'll need to get you through the regular season, hopeful postseason, and I'd say off-season, Tybus, but is there really ever an off-season for this team?
Thankfully for our podcast, Holly, there really never is when it comes to the Cleveland Browns. Don't miss our breakdown of each week's matchup, game recaps, and any and all news out of Berea to feed your Browns appetite. As we know, Holly, dogs gotta eat.
Yes, they do. So hit that subscribe button and never miss an episode of the Orange is Oranger, Cleveland Browns podcast on the Press Play Podcast Network.
Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico from Cavs on the Break NBA podcast. Be sure to give us a listen for all your Cleveland Cavaliers recaps, analysis, breakdowns, draft talk, free agency. The list goes on and on. Give us a listen, Cavs on the Break NBA podcast.
Hey, the Roadman Kenny Roda here for the R&R podcast, and a shout out to our title sponsor, MGM Northfield Park. MGM Northfield Park is your home for live and simulcast racing. Catch the excitement of live harness racing every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday evening with a 6 p.m. post time. You can wager and win daily on top thoroughbreds and harness tracks from around the world, with action starting around noon. Free admission and free parking every day at Northfield Park, and tell them Reghi and Roda sent you.
Looking for new insights on the Cleveland sports scene with a unique side of Cleveland sports history? Then you found the perfect podcast. I'm John Sable.
And I'm Scott Sable, and we're hosts of the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, a podcast about Cleveland sports, but not your typical podcast about the land's sports teams. Join us as we embark on a journey of sharing a unique and historical side of Cleveland sports history with the help of some former Cleveland sports stars and other historical figures.
All right here on the Sable Brothers on the Baseline podcast, part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
And we continue with the Reghi and Roda podcast here on the Press Play Podcast Network, powered by MGM Northfield Park. And Michael, I don't know if the Browns were the worst team in the AFC North on Sunday. They lose 28-3. I'll let you be judge, jury, and executioner on this, all right? Browns get beat at home by the Ravens 28-3. The Steelers lose to second overall pick C.J. Stroud, and the Houston Texans 30-6 at Houston. And Tennessee, who the Browns walloped last week, well, they turn around and kick the Bengals' ass today, 27-3. So the three teams, Browns, Steelers, Bengals, outscored today 85-12. Who was the worst team today?
That's all, 85-12.
Yeah.
I saw some of the Houston pummeling the Pittsburgh and a little bit of the Tennessee pummeling of Cincinnati. And Kenny, I thought it might be worse than that just by the numbers. But listen, Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, both of them on the road. Ken, I only needed to watch about a quarter and a half of each. I got them taped, but I don't know if I'm going to go because neither one of them gave themselves an opportunity to win a road football game today. Yeah. I mean, they just got taken to the outhouse quickly and were down multiple touchdowns early. So you combine that with the Browns, as you said, and I don't know. This is a division that maybe they're all front runners, Ken. Maybe when they go on, the Browns are at home, but maybe when these teams go on the road, with the exception of Baltimore, this is the result you're going to get. Pittsburgh didn't put it. Did they? I don't think they did score a touchdown. They just didn't. No, they 2 field goals?
I believe it was 2 field goals. I'll double check that right now. And Pickett did leave the game, I guess, with a knee injury, and Mitch Trubisky came in. But I thought all they had were field goals. So I'll double check that while you continue to break it down.
Yeah, 10-7, I think, definitely, I don't know, maybe 10-7 might win the division. Ken? Maybe it will win the division. Now, I think the Ravens are going to, I think the Ravens can be an 11-12 win football team because that's where they usually are, in that vicinity. So, again, we've talked about this before. I mean, if you're the Browns, you want to be able to try to get to 10 so that you can guarantee yourself a playoff chance. So what do they got now? I mean, there's how many 13 football games to play?
Yep.
Right. And they're going to need to go 8-5 to get to that 10. And, while they won't be playing a team as strong as the Ravens every Sunday, I just don't feel real good about them, Kenny. I just don't.
Reg, Steelers, 2 field goals, no touchdowns today. Cincinnati, no touchdowns. Browns, not. So all 3 teams that we just talked about, Bengals, Steelers, and the Browns, none of them scored a touchdown today on offense. 0.
It's incredible. I mean, it's incredible. A division that everybody thinks is a strong division, and you say that, and that does not paint a pretty picture for any of them.
Mike Tomlin, quote after the game, "We've got to make some changes." You think, Mike? I've been telling you that for 3 years, Roonies. You got the same damn head coach who hasn't taken you to the playoffs in 6 or 7 years. Matt Canada, I wouldn't want him as a high school offensive coordinator. You don't have a quarterback. My goodness, you got to make a lot of changes there in Pittsburgh. And Cincinnati, I don't know what the problem is there, Reg, whether it's the O-line, whether Burrow's banged up and shouldn't be playing, but that's an issue there. If I'm Baltimore, man, I'm licking my chops. If I can win with 7 starters out, imagine what I can do when I get those 7 starters back in this division. So it's ugly right now in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati and Cleveland. Hey, Jekyll and Hyde, right? 2 dominating wins and 2 very frustrating losses so far for the Browns.
Well, no question about it. And hey, look, it's up to them, Ken. And right now they're not playing for 14 more days, albeit against maybe the best team overall in the National Football League, certainly one of them. But, they've got to find a way to start getting this thing to the point where, Ken, you're going to feel good about what they're putting on the football field each and every week. And like I said, I don't know. Today was a day that in the situation they were in, you really needed the defense to continue what we thought was pretty strong play, correct?
Yes.
And they did anything but, Kenny. You're at home and you got to be able, you had to know that if you had to know, they had to know that they weren't going to put 30 points up today. First of all, against the Baltimore defense, which is very good. And now you got, a 5th-round rookie quarterback and not Deshaun Watson.
Right.
So to me, if I'm a part of that defense, hey, fellas, listen, this game's got to be about us today. We gotta make sure, take care of business, and make sure we give our football team a chance to win. And a chance to win today, Ken, I thought, honestly, was probably going to be, I don't know, maybe 16-14, maybe 13-10.
Yep.
And the Browns defense didn't even come close to sniffing that against Baltimore. So
taking a look at the AFC standings, Reg, and Kansas City's playing, as we're taping this podcast, leading the Jets 17-12 on Sunday Night Football. But in the AFC East, Buffalo and Miami both 3-1, but Buffalo wins the head-to-head today in dominating fashion. Baltimore 3-1. Pittsburgh, Cleveland 2-2, Cincinnati 1-3 in the AFC North. The AFC South, that sucker's up for grabs. Every team, Indy, Houston, Jacksonville, Tennessee, all 2-2 in that division. And Kansas City 2-1. If they win tonight, they're 3-1. The Chargers 2-2. The Las Vegas Raiders 1-3. They look awful. Denver, pretty bad too at 1-3. Over in the NFC, Reg, in the East, Philadelphia with a big win today in overtime over Washington on the road. No, that was at home, actually. They're 4-0, so they found a way to win at home. Dallas had the big win. My bad. They blow somebody out today. They're 3-1. Detroit 3-1 after a big win on Thursday Night Football, leading Green Bay, who's 2-2 in the North. Tampa Bay, Baker Mayfield and company, leading the NFC South with a 3-1 record. Kudos to Baker Mayfield. I don't think it'll last, but hey, so far, he's 3-1. Deshaun Watson didn't play today. And San Francisco now 4-0 in the NFC West. They lead Seattle, who's 2-1, and will play the New York Giants on Monday Night Football. So from all those standings, Michael, just your thoughts on the teams that we think are the best in the NFL. Are they the ones we thought were the best before the season started in KC, San Fran, and Philadelphia?
Well, yeah, those would be my top three, but let's just stay with the AFC right now, Kenny. I think, this is going to be about Buffalo and KC and probably the Baltimore Ravens, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the three teams that I feel that have certainly shown that they are the class of the conference. So if you're the Browns, you're going to play Baltimore again, but then if in the playoffs, Kenny, you're going to see Buffalo or Kansas City. If you're the Browns,
yeah,
you're going to see one of them, if not both of them. Do you feel good about the Browns being able to in January in a playoff football game to be able to take down either one of them?
Deshaun Watson in cold weather at Buffalo or KC, no chance.
Yeah, well, see, there you go. And that's what you're looking at. And you say, well, a lot of football to be played. Maybe, yeah, well, maybe. Listen, you say maybe all you want. Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore. Those are the three top teams in the AFC.
Yeah.
You probably would have to, honestly, if you're going to go in and not win the division, you probably have to beat two of them to advance to a conference championship game.
Right.
You'd have to beat two of them. Certainly one, maybe two. And, as much as I want to remain optimistic and feel good about it, Ken, and, want to say all the time-worn cliches, a lot of football to be played, a lot of things can happen. But unless you're talking about the debilitating injuries, and I don't want to see any team have that. I don't. I just can't see the Browns beating either Buffalo or Kansas City on the road, and you might probably include Baltimore in that as well. So, I mean, that's what's ahead of them, right?
Yep.
You can say everything else you want, but that's what the bottom line is until they find a way against teams of that ilk. And, it's got to start with being better than an aggregate 36-13 against the best team in your division. It's got to be better than that, man. I mean, if you can't at some point become at least right there with the best team in the division, I don't know, how the hell else anything is realistic.
Yeah, Reg, it's I know it's early and there's a long way to go and a lot of things can change between now and game 17, but just from, what the eye in the sky, watching the first four, a quarter of the season is over, right? And the Browns are 2-2. Now, if you listen to the R&R podcast, we told you, hey, if they can get out of this at 3-2 after the San Francisco game, yes, when you've got Indy, Seattle, Arizona, coming up after that, three very winnable games, which could put you at 6-2. I thought today was a must win with Deshaun at quarterback. Without him, I didn't think they would win. Now, if Watson plays against San Fran on the 15th of October, 1:00 in Cleveland, that's a must win to me, because you don't want to be 2-3 then coming, to that stretch, because then you're forced to win those next three without, giving you any leeway for a slip up.
Yeah, and it's a tall task. I mean, I have a hell of a lot of respect for Kyle Shanahan's San Francisco 49ers. They're damn good, Kenny.
Yeah.
They are damn good, and they are tough to beat. I don't care if you've got them in your place or not. So, yes, it's going to take, hopefully, Deshaun Watson playing at his premium level, which he did, right, last week.
Yep.
I mean, I bet you we can make a case. You and I were talking about it. You might say that was Deshaun Watson's best, most complete football game of the 9 he's played as a Cleveland Brown.
Absolutely.
He's damn good. That's winning quarterback play there. Now, can he continue to keep that rolling? Well, you're going to need it against an opponent like San Francisco, who probably is atop the money charts for winning the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, they are. They're the team that you'll get the worst odds on, because every handicapper out there thinks they're the best, and so you're gonna have to bet a lot of money if you want to win some money on San Fran. Hey, Reg, before we wrap this baby up, just your thoughts. We're taping this on Sunday night. Tomorrow, I'm headed to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for Cleveland Cavaliers Media Day. I just wanted to get your quick thoughts on Damian Lillard going to join Giannis Antetokounmpo and the Milwaukee Bucks in the Eastern Conference. You talk about a punch to the gut for the Cavaliers and other teams in the Eastern Conference, man. That one hurt, and I don't think they gave up a whole heck of a lot. Dude, what are your thoughts on that trade?
Well, I think if you're a Milwaukee Bucks fan, you got to be ecstatic. That's a hell of a deal. You got two of the best offensive players in the NBA now in a Milwaukee Bucks uniform, so it's going to make things more difficult. Cavaliers will play them 4 times, correct?
Yep.
And so it's going to make things much more difficult to get out of the Eastern Conference, not just for the Cavaliers, but for anybody else who thinks they are a contender. So, it's a hell of a deal that Milwaukee made, Kenny. And, I don't know, sometimes it's almost like you shake your head. It's like, I'll be damned. The rich get richer. And I think Milwaukee has done that. They're going to be very difficult to deal with. And once Lillard and Antetokounmpo start to, really get a great feel for playing together and what that can mean for them, well, I think Milwaukee's a definitive, got to be a thought of as an NBA championship team for sure.
Yeah, Reg, it's I would say even bigger than the Cavaliers trade from last year when they landed Donovan Mitchell, right? That was a shocker to a lot of teams, and that was a big move, and it helped the Cavaliers win 51 games, but bowed out in the first round of the playoffs. This, I think, is even a larger and more impactful trade than that one, don't you?
I do. Certainly Mitchell helped the Cavaliers, and Ken, more that we'll get into as we go forward here on our R&R podcast. But, I'm beginning to think that Donovan Mitchell is trying to craft his way out of a Cavalier uniform. More to come with that. But, I'm getting that sense that he is trying to do everything he can, behind the scenes to get himself out of here. And maybe as soon as after this year. So we'll see how all that plays out.
Yeah, he has a player option, right, after this year, Michael?
He does.
Yeah. So that'll be his to either accept or decline and then become an unrestricted free agent. And the Cavs could still go after him, but the rumors are that he would like to end up in New York. His dad works for the Mets, New York, the Knicks, a dream of his. He thought he was going there last year, didn't work out. Supposedly, according to Brian Windhorst, I read somewhere earlier the last week or so that, there's no thought right now of extending him this year. So like you said, that could open the door for him after this season to say hasta la vista, baby, and head elsewhere. So the Cavaliers, hey, both front offices better be on their toes. Andrew Barry and Kobe Altman. Barry the rest of this year, and Altman as they navigate their way through this upcoming season for the Cavs.
Well, agreed. You're right on both those counts. I mean, this is not kiddie stuff now. This is not child's play. Kenny, you know how I feel. I make a case that in maybe include baseball too, but the NFL, NBA, and if you want, I almost think your general manager and the one that has the grasp on what you're going to do is putting your roster together and what you're going to do move-wise and who you're drafting and who you're looking to obtain. That might be more substantial than the head coach in the NFL or the NBA or the baseball manager, Ken. In this day and age, it's starting to seem like it is because, a couple of right moves can get you where you need to be. But, boy, you make a wrong move or a move that turns out to be a negative against you and your organization. And, wow, it can go south quickly, too.
Reg, I lied. I remembered one other thing I wanted to get your thoughts on.
Okay.
Guardians lost their final game of the season to finish 76-86 to end the Terry Francona era after 11 seasons as the manager of the Cleveland Guardians. He did a fabulous job, came within an out or an inning of winning a World Series in 2016 in extras to the Cubs. But his tenure, because of his health, has come to a close. I've got a name that I'm hearing being thrown around outside of the organization. I was just curious to see if you've heard of any names as far as a Francona replacement.
Not from outside the organization. I've kind of felt, and I kind of hope that maybe they do go outside the organization as opposed to staying within it and giving some of the guys that are already here an opportunity. But Kenny, 76-86. I believe I remember our show. I went 79-83.
Yeah.
I think you went 80-82. Was 81-81 or 82-80, somewhere in there?
I went 83-79, I think. I'm trying to remember. I thought that would win the division at like 4 or 5 games over 500, so I was way off.
Yeah, but you're kind of in the ballpark about what they were. So 76-86, not quite good enough to be a team that wins this division. We knew that was the only chance you're going to get into postseason play. So, I don't know. There are things that got to be done. I think we know that with the Indians, and now it's going to be done with a different voice as the manager. But again, listen, front office going to be extremely important in this offseason to not only go out and get the very best they can to replace Francona, but Kenny, we know this team's got to make some moves too. To me, they need a couple of bats, and hopefully that's something that Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff and the men have in their wheelhouse, because I think they need it.
Reg, the one name I'll throw your way, courtesy of Zach Meisel from The Athletic. I ran into Zach at the ballpark. We were there for Tito's final home game. We did the Kenny and JT show on WHBC there, and I talked to him just briefly. Zach, I said, hey, I'm not holding you to this, but give me a name. He goes, you want a name? I'll give you a name. Pretty good name, I think. He said, watch out for Will Venable, who is currently the associate manager of the Texas Rangers. And here's the connection, Michael. Played his college ball, went to Princeton. Current general manager of your Cleveland Guardians is Mike Chernoff, who is also a Princeton grad and was there at the same time, I believe, as Will Venable. So if you're looking outside the organization, remember that name, courtesy of Zach Meisel from The Athletic, Will Venable as a candidate to be the Guardians' next manager.
Makes a lot of sense, and you laid out why. So we'll see. We'll see if that comes into play. And I guess maybe next week we can kind of get into who we like in the baseball playoffs, huh?
Yeah, his dad played in the bigs. He played in the bigs for a little bit, 249 hitter over his career with the Padres, Rangers, and Dodgers. He's been a coach with the Cubs, Red Sox, and currently the associate manager with the Texas Rangers. So has the experience, one of those guys that wasn't a star and maybe gets it better and understands it more when you struggle. So that's why his name, I believe, is on that short list for the Cleveland Guardians. All right, Reg, that'll wrap it up here, and we've got plenty more to get to in the coming weeks with the R&R podcast on the Browns. They're off next week. They have a bye. So, Reg, maybe we'll dive into, some Cavaliers talk and some Guardians and MLB playoff talk next week sometime. How's that?
That sounds good, buddy. Always a pleasure, and we'll do it again then.
Sounds great. There you have it, folks. And a shout out once again to our outstanding producer, Ty Quartz, getting this all out to you on the R&R podcast and the Press Play Podcast Network. And it's all powered by MGM Northfield Park. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.